Hello, everyone. Let's begin with another segment on that what is called Government of India Act 1858. Now, in the previous segments, we have talked about the revolt of 1857, the pressing need of socio-religious reform movements, and now we are moving to Government of India Act 1858. Why this act was also crucial was because of various reasons. Number one, it abolished the company's rule, almost 258 years of rule of British East India Company. And the Crown of England directly took over the control of India, administration-wise, and as well as other affairs like politics and economics. So, moving ahead, let us see the picture on the screen is basically the proclamation of the Queen Victoria about the Government of India Act, and particularly in this proclamation, the Queen is giving sort of direct control of India in the hands of Parliament of India, Parliament of England, and Parliament of England will now be appointing the direct administrators, and there will be no intermediaries like East India Company or any other company. Now, so what is the sort of content of Government of India Act 1858? If we see, this act was also titled as an Act for the Better Government of India. Now, British government, in a way, assumed and with various data and facts in hand, they agreed with the fact that something was messy in India. Something was not going good with the company's rule, and hence that became the cause behind the revolt of 1857. And this particular act marked a pivotal shift in British governance following the revolt of 1857. Now, this act was enacted by the Parliament of Great Britain, and this act received royal assent on 2nd of August 1858 and was commenced on 1st of November 1858. So, if one can see on the screen, what is visible at the top is East India Company's flag, where one can see that from 1600 to 1858, after various sort of war and jostling in the 2.5 century rule, from a very small territory to expansion of East India Company to becoming a larger administrative machinery, got abolished by the Government of India Act 1858. Now, on the left-hand side on the screen is the picture of Queen Victoria, who was the then queen. And it in United Kingdom, it is saying that the king is dead, long live the king, which also means in a way that whatever power the king assumes is basically controlled by the parliament. So parliament is empowered more. King is of course a nominal executive, and king also means queen, so or rather the crown. So the king is dead, even the crown will be alive even if the king is dead. So that's the connotation with this phrase, or the proverbial statement rather, the king is dead, long live the king. Now, it's I have been saying this repetitively, and I am saying now that, and it is accounted, and documented in the history books, that revolt of 1857 indeed served as a turning point, which prompted British government to reassess its governance in India. Uh, there's a widespread resentment against the East India Company's policies, was blamed for the revolt, and is Queen Victoria, which her picture we saw on the screen in the previous slide, became the sovereign of British territories in India uh, by adopting the title Empress of India as a result of the act. So now the Empress of India will be directly controlling the Indian administration. Now, what were the features of Government of India Act 1858? If we see, the liquidation of East India Company, by which we mean that the company's rule got dissolved, and Indian territories, came under direct governance, in the name of British Queen. The very idea of dual government, where company will be ruling in India, and then the certain policies will be informed to the parliament, and then parliament will be kind of issuing certain kind of instructions to the company's rule. So that strategy of colonial administration got abolished. Now the very structure through which the dual government was in fact was legislated through Pitt's India Act. That Pitt's India Act also got kind of abolished, which in a way had established abolition of dual government in India. Now, if we see the doctrine of lapse, by which we mean that this doctrine, which in a way did not allow the princess to have a certain kind of hereditary control, or the preferences of son to be the that what we can say, they will be kind of higher. So now doctrine of lapse got abolished, which allowed Indian princes to maintain independent status under suzerainty of British government. Um, Further provisions like Lord Stanley, assumed the role of Secretary of State for India. The Governor General, and Viceroy now were clubbed together as a single individual appointed by the Crown. So Lord Canning became the Viceroy of India. In terms of executive council, in the executive council, was sort of assisting the viceroy in governance of India. In the matter of Indian civil services, because Indians were not allowed to sit for ICS examinations, and in fact, now through Government of India Act, Indian were now allowed to have admission. So provision, for Indian admission, and in fact, Indian civil services were introduced for administration. So Government of India Act, in a way, can be also said is the marker where that what is called Indian bureaucracy in current manifestation. The root goes to Government of India Act, which introduced that sort of administration. Um, Regarding the communication channel, with the British government, Secretary of State became the communication link between British government and Indian administration. So, as you can see on the screen, all these pointers, which actually led to the administrative changes, in India by introducing new sort of post, and and also introducing Indian civil services through this. Now, this particular act also kind of was a power shift because it actually involved parliamentary involvement. So ending of the company's rule gave a certain kind of edge to the Parliament of England, or the British Parliament, which gained the authority to question Indian affairs by the Secretary of State. So, Secretary of State, would be questioning the Governor General or Viceroy, and Secretary of State was empowered to send secret dispatches to India without consulting the council. Now, as I said that, Lord Stanley, was appointed as the first Secretary of the State for India. And, in terms of political dynamics, there were several debates in Parliament, and, many of the leaders, political party leaders, they were opposed to the very abolition of companies' rule and direct control of India. Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli's opposition, in fact, overridden by majority support in the House of Commons, which actually led to passing of the Government of India Act and introducing a direct control of the Crown. Now, this is Lord Stanley, who was also Earl of Derby, and he was the first to be announced as the Secretary of State for India. Now, as I said, and I'm repeating, that the first Governor General first Viceroy of India post 1857, or which Government of India Act 1858 introduced, was Lord Canning, who became the first Viceroy of India. And this is Lord Canning on the screen. Moving ahead, if you can see, on the impact on Indian princes and chiefs, what we get to know that India was having various kinds of smaller units where they were called princely states, and these princely states were basically run by Indian princes, and these Indian princes were, of course, they prior to 1857 or 1858, their powers were marginalized, and they were kind of harassed by the company's rule, or they either worked as an agent for the British government, and some in fact revolted against the revolted against the company's rule or the colonial rule, which actually led to the revolt of 1857. If we see, you know, Lakshmi Bai, for an example, or Tatya Tope, Nana Sahib, Begum Hazrat Mahal, you know, all these, Nawabs and prince and princess, uh, they they were revolting against the colonial administration, and they were not independent. They were not having any kind of independent status. The British, kind of officers, or the company officers, they were kind of extracting, generating revenue. And these princes were basically collaborating. They were called collaborators. They were called allies. But some of them, in fact, revolted against the colonial administration. So, Government of India Act 1858 was, in a way, mindful of the suffering of these princes and the kings, and the reason being that because these princely states were dissatisfied with the colonial administration, these smaller chiefs of different states were not at all in favor of the colonial administration. Uh, Hence, they revolted. So the very cause or the financing or providing the resources to the mutineers, or the people who were or the masses who were against the colonial administration, they funded, they supported the cause, and ultimately that led to the revolt of 1857. And British administration was, in a way, aware about their involvement. Some of the princes, of course, lost their lives. There were more than 560 Indian princes and chiefs who were allowed to maintain their independent status under British suzerainty. So this is something like, what do we mean by suzerainty? Well, the the kind of opposite or the corollary terminology of suzerainty is called sovereignty. Of course, these princely states were not allowed to be a sovereign independent state. Rather, they can maintain their independent status, but they were not, of course, allowed to have any kind of communication with the foreign countries. They were not allowed to have any kind of armies or army officials. They were not allowed to have kind of other kind of administrative mechanism. So they can they can govern within their own kind of territorial boundaries, but they cannot have any kind of upper hand over the British administration. So they even their independent status comes under the scrutiny of the British administration, and that's precisely that what is called British suzerainty. Now, as I said, and I have been saying this from the very beginning, that now the colonial status, of course, remains of the misery and suffering of the Indians remains the same. The only thing that what was, in a way, introduced. So it's I have been saying, and I'm saying again and again, the very content of this Government of India Act 1858 was to establish a direct link between India as a colony and the Parliament of England is the is the lawmaking body where all the laws and all the kind of governance mechanisms and the processes would be decided in the Parliament of England, because India, in fact, was considered as a very, very precious and important, that the very famous saying that India, India was the jewel in the crown, which means that it was the Indian colony, which in fact was benefiting immensely the British, I mean, British people by and large, but also, Britain. So, India became a direct British colony, and in fact, Government of India Act has to do something with announcing India or transforming India into a direct British colony. And lastly, let us now again see that is in the very last segment, when we were talking about, or rather in the other segments, we were talking about socio-religious reform movements. And in the socio-religious reform movements, we discussed about that how Indians were very much life, their quality of life, and they were conscious that only through education they can emancipate their suffering, their marginalization, but also they need to reform their orientation, their mindset, by which I mean that the status of women were not really up to the mark. The very ideals like liberty, equality, and fraternity was in fact democratic ideals were not respected. It was not cherished by the Indian people, and the very parochiality and the blind belief and the stereotype and prejudices guided people, and that was also the reason of that they were not standing in solidarity of the other communities if they were suffering, and and they lacked harmony, and because of that lacking harmony, they were unable to raise in a single voice against the company's rule. So later on, even Government of India Act 1858, in a way, when changed the administration from direct administration to abolition of dual government, to abolition of doctrine of lapse, so on and so forth. This this act also gave impetus in incorporation of Indian people into certain kind of administrative decision making processes. So in a way, that's also kind of that's also a time where we see various administrative, political, and territorial changes which shaped the course of British governance in India for years to come. Now, the Act of 1858 was largely confined to the improvement of the administrative machinery by which the Indian government was to be supervised and controlled in England. It did not alter in any substantial way the system of government that prevailed in India. But the very substantial, kind of transformation, was the the transfer of powers of government, territories, and revenues from the East India Company to the British Crown. So this is one of the very substantial change. Otherwise, whatever improvement of the administrative machinery happened, the control did not vanish, controlling of people, the force did not vanish, the misery of the people did not vanish. People still suffered. People were crying for freedom. People were dying for freedom. People were dying because of hunger and famine, and it has to do something with the policy of the British administration. So, what company rule was doing to the Indian people was done exactly by even the officials post Government of India Act 1858. But of course, some sort of check and balance, because uh, company's rule was very extractive and very excessive. Force was used on people of India. So, in one way, the very check and balance created by the Parliament of India, where all the issues will be discussed and debated in the Parliament of India. That was a very, again, very important move by the British Parliament. So, the act changed, the designation of the Governor General of India to that of Viceroy of India, right? So that was another very major change. The again, the Viceroy was the direct representative of the British Crown in India. The there was something that what is called the Board of Control and Code of Directors during the company's rule. Rather, started during the Pitt's India Act, 17. I mean, 1773 Regulating Act, and later on, 1780s Pitt's India Act. So, these, Board of Control and Code of Directors were, kind of creating that check and balance of the company's rule. But even those who were part of Board of Control and Code of Directors primarily were also corrupt officials, and the Government of India Act abolished that too. And thus the system of this dual government came to an end. As I said, the dual government uh, has has something to do with the that what I have been saying, that these officials were Board of Control and Code of Directors. They were, in a way, coming from the companies, the company officials from the East India Company, and as well as coming from the British government, right? So, from the Parliament of India, Parliament of England, appointing those officials. So, in a way, that what we see, that the policy of the dual government or double government came to an end. The Secretary of State, came into existence, who has complete authority and control over Indian administration. So, again, the very check and balance between, because Secretary of State for India was the secretary, appointed by the Parliament of India, and now Secretary of State for India will be overseeing, the policies of the even Governor General, and can also issue secret dispatches, to the Indian administration. So, the complete authority and control over Indian administration, in a way, came into the hands of Secretary of State. Now, is Secretary of State was responsible to the British Parliament, and similarly, a 15-member council headed by the Secretary of State was also established to assist the Secretary of State for India. So, in a way, the very 15-member council headed by the Secretary of State also sounds like, the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister, more like that what we have in a way borrowed, or is a matter of legacy. We have devised our parliamentary representative mechanism, from these administrative changes or constitutional consolidation through Government of India Act 1858, and further on through Indian Councils Act 1861, or 1892, and later on by what is called Parliamentary reforms and Montego-Chelmsford reform. So definitely we'll come to those acts later on, because each introduction, each initiative by these acts in a way adds on to the constitutional growth, that adds on to the very progression of the constitutionality principle in the in India, and and British government in a way is introducing these constitutional principles. Administration, colonial administration, through various kinds of agitations, protests and resistances by the people who were dying for freedom, and they were part of the freedom movement. So, as they were revolting, and the changes were happening, as the Great Revolt of 1857 changed the very instances where it introduced the direct control of India through the British Parliament, and and it was in a way matter of necessity, where Government of India Act, in fact, was seeking the cooperation of Indians in the administration of their country. And that is not possible if Indians are not employed into the administration, and hence Government of India Act in a way gave, or or opened the gate for Indians to be part of the Indian administration. So, in pursuance of this policy of association, three more acts were enacted by the British Parliament in 1861, 1892, and 1909. So we will be seeing these acts in the coming classes. So I stop here. And we have covered Government of India Act 1858, the very the week two, where we in the week two we discuss about socio-religious reform movements. We discuss about the revolt of 1857, and also Government of India Act 1858. Now, in the next segment, we'll be talking about Indian Council Act 1861. Thank you so much.